Hello there, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Casey and I'm the designer behind the indie sewing pattern company, Pattern Scout. My brother-in-law is getting married in a couple of weeks in Spain, and I am so excited to go on this trip. It's been about 16 years since I traveled abroad, and that was when I was in college. When I was on that trip in college, I really wanted to take a side trip to Spain, and I didn't have enough classmates that wanted to go to Spain as well, so that trip ended up not happening. I feel like it's such a great opportunity, and I'm just very thankful that I get to go. So for this trip, I've already made quite a few things that I'm gonna bring on the trip, and I have kind of a general idea of the wardrobe that I wanna bring, and I've been pinning ideas basically since I found out that we were gonna go to Spain for this wedding. I've been pinning ideas for dresses that I'd like to wear to the wedding. So I'll put up a couple of images here of kind of a general idea of the style of dress that I'm thinking of. I'll be making it out of this green lace. So it's actually reading a little bit blue on screen as I hold this up, but it's kind of like an emerald green, and it's obviously, you know, see-through, but I have a lining to go underneath it. So I've got this kind of ivory, it's not really ivory, but yeah, it's kind of like a nude, like my nude, but it's not really, actually, it's a lot lighter than my skin. But anyway, I figured that this will go under this and kind of be the lining there. So the lining would show through, but I've seen a lot of dresses that are designed that way, and I think it looks really nice. So my plan of attack here is to first make a muslin. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I actually have an eye appointment later today at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would like to kind of get a rough idea of the shape of these garments. I'm gonna be using my bodice sloper to kind of start the flat pattern drafting. Then I'll try on the muslins and do a little bit of on-the-fly fitting and adjust the pattern accordingly. So if you are interested in learning how to draft using Adobe Illustrator, I do have a class over on Skillshare for that. I'm not sponsored by Skillshare at all, but I do have a class on Skillshare where I walk you through how to create a bodice sloper using Adobe Illustrator. And I like this method a lot because I can go into Adobe Illustrator and make any sort of adjustments to patterns that I need to make. It saves me a lot of paper, and I can work kind of on a little bit of a smaller scale. I don't have to spread out on a big surface. I can work from anywhere on my patterns. I'm gonna be using my skirt sloper that I created several videos back. I'll put a link up here somewhere and down in the description to that video if you wanna see how I drafted that skirt sloper. So I'm gonna be using that as a base for the skirt. So I'm not gonna worry about muslining the skirt just yet. And I've got some muslin fabric back here. I bought a whole lot of muslin fabric a long time ago. So I've got plenty of muslin fabric, and yeah, hopefully this will move pretty quickly. So I guess I better quit yapping and get to it because it is now 10:37. I have an appointment at 2 o'clock. I probably need to leave here by 1:30. So I've just got a few hours to sort of get this whole thing going. So I'm using the book Pattern Making for Fashion Design, one of my favorite books to use for kind of helping me draft new patterns. It shows you a way to create what is called contour guidelines. And I'm not gonna show you how they do that because I don't wanna get into any kind of like copyright infringement for the exact measurements that you have to do that. I highly recommend you get this book. I'll put a link in the description to the book on Amazon. You can also probably find this book at your local library. I did check out this book for a while before I finally decided to buy the book for myself, but it's been a great investment. And if you want to do pattern drafting, I highly recommend that you get this book or something similar that has, you know, just a bunch of examples for how to draft patterns. I'm going to be doing the Bra Top Torso Foundation. So anyway, I'm gonna put my glasses on. So let me do a little screen recording. Okay, so I've got my bodice in Adobe Illustrator here, and I've used the contour guidelines that are illustrated in this book and are instructed in this book with the measurements that they instructed in this book. And I kind of modified it a little bit from their Bra Top Torso Foundation, and I'll show you really quick too. This is the this is kind of the style of bodice that I'm thinking of. So it's basically got kind of like a bra cup here. There's a princess seam line down the center of the bodice here across the bust. And then the bottom of the bodice is separated from the bust cups, okay? And then they have a skirt attached here, so you can kind of see some of the style lines that they have here. So I'm trying to kind of mimic that. And if I go back to Adobe Illustrator, so in pink here, you can see where I have kind of started to build that pattern. And basically all I did was draw a line across the top of the bust that curves to the center front. And then I've kind of followed the princess seam lines down the center of the bust, and then, you know, included dart locations here for the dart intake to take out some of that ease when it is on my body. So the back bodice is pretty simple. It's just a couple of rectangles that are on either side of the back dart. So anyway, that's kind of where I started with that. Then I took the lines that I marked in pink here, I took that down here, and I just kind of, you know, trued a line here at the center front bust for that princess seam that kind of makes that curve a little bit more uniform, so I don't have these like harsh angles that would create puckers. And this will be, these two pieces here will be the bra cup part of the bodice. This will be the bottom, these two pieces down here, and then these two will be the back bodice. And then if I just take those down here, they are all cleaned up, and I'll just kind of rotate these so that they're back on grain. Move that up a little bit. Okay, object, path, offset path. And we're gonna do 3/8 inch, and click OK. And now we have a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I just need to clean up that one little corner there. But anyway, you get the idea. So I'll just lay these out on some, you know, letter size paper. I'm gonna print it out on my printer here at home, and I will have a pattern, and I'm going to try to put that together. I also wanna make sure that I add grain lines on here just so that I can kind of keep myself straight. So I'm just gonna add a few lines just to represent the grain lines. And this just means that I wanna keep this straight on the grain of the fabric. Now I've got my grain lines, and I might as well go ahead and label these because why not? Anyhow, I'll continue labeling those, and then I'm gonna print these out, and I will muslin this later today after my doctor's appointment. Okay. Okay, so I've got my dress form roughly padded to my measurements, and it's been a while since I padded this, but I did try this on my body, and the fit was very, very similar. So I can kind of point out a few things here because it's just really hard to pin this on myself since it doesn't have any straps. The first thing is I need to reduce the ease here, just here, and the drafting instructions had me add about a 1/4 inch ease and do that curve, and I actually think I need to take that back away so the curve isn't just so sharp there. And then I also think I need to add a little bit of ease at the bottom of the dart here, because you can see where that's pulling. It's pulling all across here. That was doing the same thing on my body too. So I add a little bit of ease here, and then I think that the bottom of this fit pretty good. And then I also kind of wanted to adjust the top of this because I felt like it was just like really curved right here. But I think what I'm gonna do is actually bring that up a little bit, kind of more here and down, because I would like to put a strap here that is maybe bra friendly. So those are some of the adjustments I'm gonna try with this. Okay, I'm getting very excited. You see me. So this is the next muslin that I did, and I basically kind of raised the neckline at the edges here so it would kind of come up to meet my bra strap, and I'll put a strap here so that this will be bra friendly, which will be great. I also made a few adjustments to the cups. You can kind of see some drag lines here. I think I'm gonna leave it. I might end up adding a little bit of ease in the cup, but I know that the lace that I have is gonna have a little bit of give to it, and the lining that I have is a little bit of a stretch lining. So I'm just gonna kind of go with this, but this will be kind of folded down like so. So it'll be a little bit more subtle of a curve there. And I just think this is turning out really, really nice. I'm pretty happy with the way it fits around the bust. And oh, also to get it on and off, I just put in a zipper. I just used a zipper that was a little bit longer than my bodice so I could get it on and off, and now I can actually try it on. But I just have a few small adjustments to make, just to make sure that, you know, the bra is covered and it'll work with the straps and everything. But I think this is gonna be really, really pretty. This will be the bodice, and then obviously this will be the bodice. And then I'll use my skirt sloper to create the skirt for this. Very excited. I was feeling a little discouraged earlier today when I first started working on this, which is usually what happens when I'm doing muslins. But this iteration I feel a lot better about, and I think just being able to get it on my body with the zipper helped a lot. So anyway, moving on. So I think I'm going to align the flower, the center of the flower right here. I'm just going to put a little mark. I cut one, and then I'll use that as a pattern piece to cut the other so I can line up the pattern. So I'm going to flip this over and line it up here. Line up all the flowers. Like so. Okay. I'll just continue that process with all of the pieces and making sure that I'm mirroring them so that they'll be symmetrical on both sides. And we'll see how this looks. I've got all of the bodice pieces cut out, and I was just very careful to match the pattern up, and I'm not sure that it really would matter so much if every piece matched exactly, since this is pieced together. I don't care if people know that it's like a pieced together bodice. I think it's part of the appeal of the bustier style bodice. However, I did take great pains to match up the pattern, and what I did was for each pattern piece, I would just lay down the one that goes next to it on top of my fabric and then overlap it with the pattern piece by 3/4 inch, because that would make up the entire seam allowance. And then the idea is that once we sew the seam allowance, this would be matched perfectly at the seam. And when you get up here to these curved pieces at the bodice, I did my best to kind of match up the flower here at the bust, but the pieces that kind of start to taper where the darts are not going to be perfectly aligned, but I think that's okay. But yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. I've got all my pieces laid out how they're going to be sewn together just to help me stay organized. And next I'm going to cut all of the lining pieces. And if you plan to do something similar and you're going to have to do pattern matching, you may want to order a little extra fabric for your project, because I did have to kind of sacrifice some pieces of fabric because I couldn't get the pieces right next to each other in order for them to match up at the seams. I ordered 2 yards of this fabric. That was all they had left at Mood Fabrics, and it came in a 1/2 yard cut and then a 1.5 yard cut. And I think that's going to be plenty for this dress, since it doesn't have sleeves or anything. It's strapless, and the bodice is actually pretty small, and they're smaller pattern pieces. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. I may be able to make some more stuff out of this leftover lace, but I do have some pieces like these and like these that are, you know, kind of unusable. I mean, I'll probably keep them just because I don't know. I feel bad throwing them out. I may try to recycle them or make a project out of them sometime later, but that's just something to keep in mind. Now I have all of the lining pieces done. This went really, really fast. And so what I'm going to do is basically interline this bodice. And to do that, I'm going to baste the lining pieces to all of the bodice pieces. And then once I get all of those pieces sewn together, I'll also create another set of lining pieces that I'll sew together separately, and that will become the lining for the whole thing. This is so that I can have clean seams from the exterior, because if I sewed these seams together for the lace and then did a regular lining and put the lining on the inside, you would see the seam edges, the seam allowance from the exterior of the garment for the lace, and I don't want that. I want all of that to be hidden. So by doing this, I'm basically creating a backing layer for these pieces for the bodice. like to just take a moment to show a little bit of appreciation for the pattern matching that I just did on this seam. So this flower here in the center, I don't know, maybe it's a little too suggestive, but I matched that up perfectly. I'm really pleased with myself. This part I think is the most time consuming, just getting all these pieces pieced together and making sure everything lines up, but I think the skirt will be a little easier, it'll have less pieces. And then the straps, I haven't decided exactly how I want to do the straps yet, but I'm very happy. All right, so I was matching up the back to the front and I realized that my pattern matching was off and I was kind of like, well, crap, I guess I just miscalculated there. But then I remembered I had put a pin here in the back bodice so that I would know which was the top, and I realized that I sewed it on upside down, so actually that's a good thing. So now I can take this off and stitch it on the opposite way, because this is actually the top and this is the bottom, and I have it on upside down. So hopefully when I do that, things will match up a little bit better. So we shall see. Okay, that is much better. So you can see that lines up a lot better there. It kind of starts to come in here. I think that's okay, because once I start putting on the skirt will have a, you know, basically a built-in dart in the side seam. So anyway, as long as it lines up mostly horizontally, I think that will be good for lining up the skirt front and back as well. So I've got my skirt slipper here, and I have a video for how I created this. I'll put a link in the cards or in the description, but basically I've got just a simple front skirt, a simple back skirt. The back skirt has a dart, and the front skirt is undarted. But I think to match up with my bodice for this dress that I'm making, I might divide the skirt. So I have a panel on the skirt that would match up with this side panel on the bodice. I have a center panel to match up with these two in the center bodice, and then another one here. And then I might do the same thing for the back bodice. I have divided the skirt into a 6-score skirt, so there's 3 panels on the back, 3 panels on the front, and those also will match up with the panels on the bodice. And what I've done here is I went ahead and made the lining shorter, because I want the lining to hit above the knees, and then the bottom of the dress will just be transparent with the lace. And then I hemmed these panels for the lining before I attached them, you know, basted them to the panels for the skirt, and then I attached the panels for the skirt together. Now, I ran into some trouble because I ran out of fabric to get the full length, and so I was able to get all of them cut except for this center back panel here. But I have some extra lace for piecing. I just couldn't get a full piece. So I'm leaving this unattached here at the bottom of the skirt on the back until I can kind of decide how long I want to make the entire dress. And then I'll go back in, I'll piece some lace on here, and then I will finish sewing the seam all the way to the bottom of the dress. And then I'll show you on the front panel. So on the front, I was able to get all of the pieces cut the way that I wanted to. And then here, I went ahead and just did a regular 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I haven't decided yet how I want to finish that seam allowance. I may end up just leaving it unfinished. I don't think it's going to really be an issue, and it just really depends on how it looks from the exterior. So now I'm going to attach these pieces to the bodice, and then I will insert a zipper and try it on. it is Monday, and I kind of didn't get to work on the dress quite as much as I'd hoped over the weekend, but really all I had left to do is to add the lining, the straps, and hem it. And then I'll also do a few little last minute sizing touch-ups, basically, just to make sure I love the fit. Anyhow, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do for the lining. I've gone ahead and connected the center back bodice and the side back bodice, and then I did the same for the side front bodice and the center front bodice. And then I connected the cups at the top here. So I'm gonna reduce the number of pattern pieces that I have to cut for the bodice. And then I'll do the same thing for the skirt. So I'm just gonna use my skirt sloper for the lining of the skirt. And I'm not gonna worry about doing the sections or the panels for that. I don't think it's necessary. That'll just kind of reduce the amount of work that I need to do to finish up this lining. And it'll just make the lining a little bit more smooth under the dress. So I'm gonna get started on that. And I'm gonna cut all these pieces out of the lining. Then I will attach those to the dress and work on the straps. So I have pinned the lining right sides together with the dress. You can kind of see here, there's the dress. I just kind of inserted it inside the lining. I pinned all the way around the top of the bodice and the back here. And then at the sides, I made sure to open up that zipper and pin the lining over the zipper. So I'm gonna go across there, and then eventually I'll hand stitch the lining to the inside of the zipper. And I'm going to leave the tops here where the straps are going to be inserted open, because I still kind of want to play around with how the straps are going to be done. So I'll just sew all the way around there and move on to the next step. Okay, so now I've got this turned to right side out and the lining is on the interior. And so you can see here at the top of the zipper, that will eventually be folded over, and then the lining will be secured on the inside here. And I'm just gonna hand stitch the lining to the zipper there because I think that'll be easier and a little bit cleaner. Although I am gonna go back and top stitch down the lace on the exterior just to make sure that it stays clear of the zipper, because I've noticed like when I'm trying to get this up and down, it does kind of want to get hung up a little bit, so I need to make sure I do that. I'm just going to trim the seam allowance on the interior here, press all this really nice and neat, and I'm just going to top stitch around this top edge here to keep that lining down. Normally I would edge stitch this, but because there are so many curves in this, and then we've got the kind of like narrow spot here for the straps, I think it's just going to be easier to top stitch this from the exterior. And because this is lace, I don't think it's going to really show that much. I think it'll still look really nice and clean. And then I'll just have to hem this and it'll be done. Okay, so I've got the strap pinned in place for now, and I'm actually pretty happy with this strap. I did kind of taper it to be smaller where it attaches to the bodice, and then I made it a little bit wider. So it's about 2 inches wide at the top here, and I really think that looks nice. So I'm gonna move forward with the strap. And then I've got it also positioned, you can see, to cover my bra strap in the back. So I think I'm good with this. And then I've also got to top stitch all around the neckline and the armholes. But I'm actually pretty pleased with the position of those. I mean, there's my bra right there. And I mean, it perfectly covers that. So that's pretty good. And then it covers it in the back too. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then once I top stitch all of this, like the white of the lining or the kind of cream color of the lining won't be showing on the front. But yeah, it's just doing that because I haven't got the lining all attached yet. Also, I just changed my rotary blades and I have cut myself twice, and this one was particularly heinous and is a bleeder. So yeah, be careful when you change your rotary blades. I haven't changed mine in a really long time, and apparently I bump into my fingers a lot when I'm cutting, and yeah, I have cut myself a couple of times now. Don't do that. Okay, anyway. And for the straps, I basically constructed this the same way I constructed the rest of the dress. I just did an interlining behind the lace, then did another piece for the lining so that the back is backed with that same lining fabric. And then I sewed them right sides together, flipped them right side out, and that is how I did the strap.
Cause I'm going through a phase of feeling kinda low. I never leave the house, but I'm not home. Can't tell if I'm awake or living in a dream. A caterpillar drifting down a stream. And I just wanna fly away, but I can't seem to get my feet up off the ground. Everything is turning upside down. Maybe we're just butterflies, butterflies.